In this video, I take a look at what is the greatest Hunger Games movie of all time and what is the worst Hunger Games movie in the entire franchise, as we rank all the franchise from beginning to end, the prequels and the sequels. So without further ado, let's get into this video. In at number 5, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2.
Stop killing for him!
For me, The Hunger Games Part 2 of the Mockingjay is good, but not as good as the rest of them. To me, I would say all the movies are solid, so I don't really want to hate on many of them, but I think that this is the weakest out the entire franchise, but the whole franchise itself is quite solid. So to me, it was hard to pick a last option. However, going on the expectations of what we expected walking into Mockingjay Part 2, in my opinion, let us know down in the comments down below if you disagree, that I don't think it met the expectations. Because to me, the big war that was going to happen, that was built up through Part 1 and throughout the previous sequels of Catching Fire and the first movie, of this hatred and this politicalness of the capital versus the working class people, this whole thing of this build-up that you've built over about 3 or 4 movies is now destroyed. Because the way that the war took place was quite boring, I would say. It is boring. And there weren't really a Hunger Games in that last movie, and I get it because it was the Mockingjay and them taking down Capitol more than anything else. However, I think it was quite predictable. We knew that Katniss was going to end up taking down the Capitol eventually, and I think that the whole plot line, we expected more. What we wanted was like what we had with Infinity War. Infinity War was like the catalyst in Part 1 to kickstart the entire war and put hype around that next sequel, in which Part 1, I believe, did, in my opinion. However, Part 2 didn't take that and run with it, so I thought that was disappointing in my personal point of view. Obviously, you guys down in the comments down below might disagree, but I think that in my personal point of view, that in particular was weak, in my opinion, of it being quite predictable, quite easy to understand what was gonna happen, and the whole war at the end of what you expected Katniss versus Snow was shown off camera. How do you do that? Oh yeah, you skip and gloss over it like it's nothing. We needed to see that on camera, in my opinion. We needed to see that in part of the movie, and we didn't, so it was quite disappointing in the long run. And so that ending just felt wasted, because it felt like the whole franchise had been wasted in a whole watching through it, because 1's great, 2's great, Mockingjay Part 1's good, but then you get onto the last one, you're thinking, end it for me, give me something. But saying that, I compare this one to Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2, in which it did what it needed to do. It ended the franchise. However, I would have preferred a different route, and I would have preferred it if it ended a little bit better and showed us Katniss versus Snow, in which we couldn't see because there was an explosion, then she woke up in hospital, and then basically the rebels took over Capitol whilst she was in hospital, so we didn't see it and we didn't follow that, so it was a bit boring from that standpoint. Also on this, just finally, I think that the whole Peter shit was crap. In my opinion, they wasted that storyline of him being this so-called killer, this so-called trained killer that nearly killed Katniss in Part 1 at the end of Part 1, and this storyline was just wasted because he didn't really kill anybody with any use, because we saw that he nearly killed Katniss. And he was trying to cut out his old ways of this killer that the Capitol had trained into him. But I think they should have turned that against the Capitol, and I think that would have been better. But me personally, I don't think that worked. In at number 4, The Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds Snakes. For me, this is a good prequel. I like this prequel. And to me, I normally hate prequels and sequels of franchises which have been left a long time, and then you're picking up like Indiana Jones that we mentioned in our last video. If you haven't seen our last video of the problem with movies in 2023, check that down in the description, please. However, I think that the whole idea around this prequel actually works. Exploring the character of Snow, I feel worked an absolute fucking treat, because we didn't know we needed it, but it actually worked. And exploring the character of Snow and how he actually was a nice guy. He was a everyday Joe. He was normal, he did normal things, he was like a student, you know what I mean? There was nothing special or amazing about him, he was just normal. However, he suddenly turned into this monstrous character all of a sudden once he's killed somebody. And once he's killed somebody, he gets the hunger to kill more people. And to me, I love that storyline of Snow, and this, to me, what puts this above Mockingjay Part 2 is simply for that character development of Snow. If it was for the whole rest of the movie, I would probably say, not sure about it. But since the Snow development is what we didn't know we needed to see, and I didn't expect anything to do with Snow walking into this movie because the trailer didn't really show much when walking in to go watch this film. I also think that this movie also explores the songs that we see and hear in the original Hunger Games franchise, as the songs that Katniss sings are actually sung in this song by Lucy Gray, and Lucy Gray is such a great character in this movie, and I think that she, alongside Snow, had this great relationship going on. But what we can clearly see is that the songs really echo what is happening in Lucy Gray's life and what we see in Snow's life. And those songs are so iconic. And to me, I love that in this movie, how they explored the songs that are so iconic to the Hunger Games franchise. In at number 3, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1.
And if we burn, you burn with us!
To me, I always compare this one more closely to Harry Potter Part 1 and Part 2, as Part 1 is always better in both franchises. I don't know why that is. I wonder if it's just because it's like the start of the build-up, and the start of the build-up is always better than the actual ending, because the hype that they create never gets finished. And like when you watch Infinity War to Endgame, I feel we got the ending we deserved for those characters and for everything. I feel we got that perfect ending, whereas this time we got the perfect ending in a way with Katniss settling down. However, we didn't get the perfect war ending. We didn't get that. We didn't feel like, oh, the horrible boss got slayed. We didn't get that. Whereas in Part 1, we got the hype building up to that, not in the same vein as Infinity War, but more in the same vein, like I said, with Harry Potter Part 1, with Dobby's death. Oh, this is gonna be a catalyst to build the next one on, but the hype of the whole thing of throughout the movies of building up to it doesn't really live up to it. But with Part 1, I feel it delivers the hype on Katniss nearly being killed by longtime friend Peter. They did a perfect job at being a catalyst for that next movie. And also building up Snow as this horrible person, while Katniss is sort of like the heroic hero, the face of the districts, being the one battling against everyone. I feel that was good, but I just can't look past how they ruined it in Part 2, hence why Part 1 is up there and has got to be ahead of Part 2 in my opinion. Before we get on to the rest of the video, I just want to tell you guys, thank you for the support, because I've absolutely enjoyed making these videos for you guys. If you want to see more of it, all you have to do is press that subscribe button, as it would really help the channel grow, the community grow, and you can join the community by hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that notification bell, and let's get back to the video. In at number 2, The Hunger Games.
I volunteer as tribute!
For me, The Hunger Games is a great movie and a great way to start the franchise. And to me, it absolutely works at showing what the franchise is about, who's Katniss, who's Peter, and why are they going into the Hunger Games, and what is the Hunger Games. I think they explain that phenomenally well. And yeah, I've got no problems with this movie. It's great. I think it helps show the class divide of working class to the capital. What is that divide? Why is that divide there? To me, I thought that was great. And we can also see at the end of this movie that the build-up between Peter and Katniss was there from the very beginning, and that their relationship was going to grow on, even though it looked a bit fake and they had to fake it to be able to escape the Hunger Games. And I think the whole build-up to the Hunger Games was phenomenal, of the hype around how gory it is and how horrible that the Hunger Games actually is. I thought that was great. In at number 1, The Hunger Games Catching Fire.
You promised me! You're a liar! You're a liar!
To me, I like this sequel. I think it was a good sequel and the best Hunger Games movie in my opinion. As to me, the whole build-up was better than the first one. However, the actual Hunger Games themselves wasn't as good in my opinion, because the Hunger Games in the first one was enjoyable, quite fun, entertaining. The second one felt like it dragged on a bit too long and it just wasn't as good in my opinion. However, it still did a job. It still was a Hunger Games. It still was brutal, so you've got to respect that. I think they really helped build on the whole Katniss and Peter thing. Is this relationship real? Are they just playing the media, which they were? And yeah, I really enjoy this movie as a sort of build on from the Hunger Games 1, and the idea that they're going up against other champions as well, because obviously Snow wasn't happy with the ending of the first Hunger Games of Katniss and Peter and they changed the whole scenario surrounding that, in which I love, because Snow was like, we can't be having that, which was a great ending for the first movie. We can't be having them two not killing each other, because the Hunger Games is about one solo survivor. However, with the public demand of keeping them two alive, Snow had to keep them both alive, in which he wasn't really happy about, and basically place them both in the Hunger Games again, or put a route around it so that them two would have to go in which was great. And I loved how the hype built around them going against other champions instead of just other people in their boots of this guy's an amateur, this guy doesn't know what he's doing neither. Whereas having somebody who's won the tournament before and knew how to win, they're going up against trained killers basically. And that was difficult for Peter and Katniss to go into that scenario, and the build up to that was phenomenal. Even though the games didn't exactly hit the world of light, and I do prefer the games from the first one, it did deliver in that retrospect, and it had a great ending as well. There are my rankings. Let me know your rankings down in the comments down below, please. I want those filled top to bottom with your rankings of what is the best and worst Hunger Games movies of the whole franchise. And if you have enjoyed this video, please give this a big thumbs up. It would really help the channel grow and our community grow. And also press that subscribe button if you want to see more videos from this guy. And I shall see you guys in the next one. Thanks.